Good morning and happy Monday. So I went ahead and made this video already. So I'm going to get rid of these things real fast. And then I tried to split screen my Desmos, and guess what it did? It kicked me off. So it's all good. I just have to go back and forth between tabs, just like I always have to. But good morning. I hope you guys had a good break. I've missed you. I'm excited to see you guys again tomorrow. And we just have a few little quick notes we're going to take today to get us ready for tomorrow. They won't take long at all. So we're going to be talking about zero and negative exponents. And before we move on, let's just talk about what an exponent is. What is an exponent? When I say, negative exponents, before we even start what a negative exponent is, we have to understand what it is. And it's basically just a shortcut of writing repeated multiplication. So it's just an easier way to show what you want to be multiplied. For instance, instead of writing negative 15 times negative 15 times negative 15, I can just write it negative 15 to the third power. So it's much easier to see. It's much easier to put into Desmos. And so instead of writing in an extended form, this is what we call standard form. So basically what we first need to talk about is what is this negative 15 called, this number? And this is called the base. And the base, and again, you might have to, yours is a little bit smaller, you might have to pull these out a little bit for the word to fit. So the base is basically the number that's getting multiplied however many times. So it's getting told what to do. Whereas the exponent's telling it what to do. So the exponent's basically the boss of the number. And it's saying, hey, negative 15. I want you to multiply 3 times by yourself. So negative 15 times negative 15 times negative 15. So the exponent is in charge, and negative 15 is the base. So that's the number that's going to be multiplied however many times. And so this is much easier to put into Desmos instead of this. So with parentheses, because parentheses are important, especially when you're talking about negative, we're going to go ahead and put this into Desmos. And so it would be parentheses negative 15, and then to the third power. And what is negative 15 to the third power? It is negative 3,375, and that would be the answer. So again, you might have to drag this out and make it bigger, but we would just say, hey, the answer to that is negative 3,375. And so this would be the answer. So expanded form, writing it out. Standard form, writing it as an exponent. And then this is the answer to whatever the exponent and the standard form is. So negative 3,375. So let's just talk about different forms. So we talked about the base. What is the base of this number? And the base of this exponent right here, this little phrase, is negative 4. Okay, that's the base. That's where we're starting. We're taking negative 4. And then what is the exponent? How many times do I need to multiply negative 4 by itself? And the exponent here would be the 2. So negative 4 is the base, and 2 would be the exponent. And so now it wants us to evaluate what is negative 4 to the second power. And that basically would just look like this. Negative 4 times, and I'm just going to write this, times negative 4. And what is negative 4 times negative 4? Well, that is a positive 16. So be careful, and we can check that into Desmos if we wanted to, but be careful when you do negative numbers. Your answer, because I'm multiplying it twice, we know that 2 negatives multiplied together becomes a positive answer. So it becomes positive 16. Okay, going back way into the volt, does anybody remember what what any number to the 0 power stands for? Any number to the 0 power is going to be 1. Okay, but before we get there, let's talk about the base. The base of this number would be the 2. This is the base, and the exponent's right here. It would be the 0. And I'm going to show you in the Desmos calculator anything, and I'm talking anything, so I'm going to put this number in. I don't even know what that is, but I'm going to put it in, and I'm going to raise it to the 0 power, and notice that it becomes 1. So anything to the 0 power becomes 1. So my answer would just be 1. Now be careful though, that does not work for 0. 0 to the 0 power, is also 1. So that's actually true. So we're going to go ahead and fix those notes. 0 to the 0 power is actually 1. So basically anything, and we just proved it, anything to the 0 power is always 1. Okay? And then we're going to talk about what happens when this is where we're headed, and what happens when I have a negative exponent. So 2 to the negative second. Notice my negative sign's held on to the base here, but here it's held on to the exponent. So let's talk. What is my base? My base is 2. And what is my exponent? It is negative 2. And so anytime that we have an exponent or a negative in my exponent, we stick it over 1. We basically put it into its reciprocal, so we put a 1 on top, and we make the exponent a positive on the bottom. And that's really hard to see, so I'm going to blow it up here in 1 second. But again, if you want to make an exponent, you go to Format, Text, and then Subscript. And I am going to, go back. Let me make this bigger. Let me go back one more time. There we go. And we're going to make this way bigger because it's really hard to see, and I want you guys to be able to see that. And then we have more examples coming up, so you're going to really be able to see it, but let me make this bigger so you can see. Sorry, pausing. There we go. And let's bold it so we can really see it. Okay, so it's going to be 1 over 2 to the second power. So again, 1 over 2 to the second power. And then we can also change this and say 1 over 4. Okay, so 1 over 4 or 1 over 2 to the second power. So anytime you have a negative exponent, you basically stick this whole thing under a 1 and make it a positive. Okay, and the reason why is because watch, 2 to the negative second is a fraction. It is 1/4, which is exactly what we just got right here. 1 over 4. 2 to the second power is 4. And so this is where we're headed next. Anything with a negative, you're basically sticking it over 1 and making it a positive. So you always end with a positive answer, okay? Unless the base is also negative, but we'll talk about that later, okay? So basically, here's the rule. Any number, and that's what A is, any number we put here to the 0 power is equal to 1, okay? So basically, 987 to the 0 power, what's my answer? 1. X to the 0 power, anything to the 0 power is always 1. So that's the first easy rule. Anything to the 0 power is 1. The next thing we're going to talk about is the anything to the negative. Notice here's the rule. A to the negative n is always 1 over a to the n. And I'm going to make this into an exponent so you can see this is actually an exponent. There we go. And so all I did was make this a to the negative n into a positive, and I stuck it over 1. So it's your reciprocal of the same base. So let's go ahead and let's try this one. 7 to the negative 5th power would just be 1. Remember, it goes over 1. And then it would be 7 to the positive 5th power. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And again, if you want to make this 5, this positive 5, because remember, if we stick it on the bottom, it becomes positive, into a exponent, you go to Format, you go to Text, and you go to Subscript. And it makes it for you, 7 to the 5th power. And same with this one. Notice, this one's where the base is also negative. It's going to be a 1 on top. And then I'm only making the exponent positive. The 9 stays the same. So it becomes negative 9 to the positive 3rd power. And again, I'm going to show you. We're going to make this. You might have to stretch it out just a little bit, and I'll try to, before I send these, I will try to configure it so it will be perfect for you, so you won't have to stretch these things out, and they'll fit. But insert, text, subscript. Notice, sorry, you can hear my doggies downstairs. So notice this will be 1 to the negative 9 to the positive 3. The only thing I made positive was this 3. The negative 9 stays the same, okay? So let's practice some. So here are my rules. These are all of my non-zero rules. So a to the 0 power is 1. And then a to any negative exponent is always 1 over that positive exponent. Okay? So all I do is stick it over 1. So my first example, I wrote out the example, then we're going to try it. So here's the first example, 99 to the 0 power. Well, we know that anything to the 0 power is 1, which means 7 to the 0 power is also 1. Now here we have multiple things in one phrase. We have x to the 0 power and we have y to the negative 3rd. So let's first do x to the 0 power. X to the 0 power is 1 right here. So there's my first answer. It's 1. X to the 0 power is 1. And again, this is held together by multiplication. So I'm going to multiply, and I've got to figure out what would y to the negative 3rd be. And that would just be 1 over y to the positive 3rd. And again, I already wrote this for you. So it'd be 1 over y to the positive 3rd. And then what is 1 times 1 over y to, what's any number times 1? Well, it's just that, 1 over y to the 3rd. And that's the final answer. So x to the 0 power y to the negative third, the final answer is 1 over y to the third, because x to the 0 is 1. And to make this a positive exponent, because that's our end game, we always want to make this a positive exponent. And to make that a positive, I stick it over 1, and now it's positive. So let's try. What is, first off, it's going to be this 0. First thing to notice, this 0 is only held to the x, not the 87, okay? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to write that 87, because that has nothing to do with my answer. What we do need to change is this x to the 0 power. And what is x to the 0 power? Well, that would be 1. So we're going to multiply it by 1. And what is 87 times 1? Well, it's just 87. So that's my final answer. So again, it's that 0 is only held to that x. And so that becomes 1. And so it's going to be 87 times 1, which is 87. And we can also put that in here and get the same answer. So 87x to the 0 power. Well, it's going to want to, we're going to have to use a different variable. Let's use a. It's going to want us to 0. But anyways, so this example will not work in Desmos. So oh, no, it does. It does. And so the answer is 87. There we go. So it does work. All right. And then last but not least, what is 7 over 7 to the negative fifth? To make this a positive, because remember that's our end game, is to make it a positive, we stick it over 1. So 1 over 7 to the fifth. And then if we really wanted to go and find the final answer, it would be 7 to the fifth is 16,807. So we can actually solve that. 7 to the fifth power is this huge number. So let's go ahead and try it. I want to make this positive. So it's going to be 1 over 3 to the second power. And again, if I wanted to make this a second power, highlight it. Go to Format, go to Text, and go to Subscript. And that's, I hit the wrong one, so let me go back. Format, Text, and we want Subscript. Format, Text, Subscript. That's interesting. Let's try this again. 3 to the second. I'm going to highlight it. Sorry, I know it's so funny doing these online, but you'll get used to it. So highlight it, insert, format, text, subscript. And I have no idea why it is being so funny. It's adding the wrong thing as a subscript. 3 to the second power. Let's try again. Okay. Format, text, subscript. And I will make sure it works for you guys. There we go. 1 over 3 to the second power. And 1 over 3 to the second power would just be 1 over, and let's figure out what 3 to the second power is. So we'll go to Desmos, and we already know what it is, but 3 to the second power is 9. So my final answer would be 1 over 9, because I can solve 3 to the second power. So again, this is just different variations of what we're learning. I'm going to go ahead and do one from a couple slides, just so you have it. So this one's super easy. When I say anything to the 0 power is 1, I mean it is 1. So your final answer here is 1. 2/15 to the 0 power is 1. This one I do want you to see, we'll go to this one. This is a negative, so the negative's on the outside. Remember, this is only held together by these parentheses on the inside. So this negative has nothing to do with it. So that negative needs to go in my answer. Now, if it was on the inside of the parentheses, then I could switch it, but I can't. So anything to the 0 power, so 4 to the 7th to the 0 power is 1. So my final answer is going to be a negative 1 because the negative's on the outside of the parentheses. This one, any number, so this is what I'm going to make 1. So this really would be 15 times 1, because remember x to the 0 power is 1, and 15 times 1 is 15. So that would be my final answer. And then here, this negative 9, and this would be negative 9 times 1, because m to the 0 power is 1, and negative 9 times 1 is negative 9. And so that's how you're going to do this one. That was the only, I don't think there's any other slide that has to do with the 0 power, so we're going to go on to this one. And remember, these are super easy. To make this a positive, we stick it over 1, and it becomes 3 to the 8th power. So all I do is stick it over 1, and now it becomes a positive, because that's the end game. We want it to be a positive exponent. So it'd be 1 over 3 to the 8th power. and that's the final answer. So that's what you're going to do for the rest of these. They do get a little bit harder. I do want to do this one. So this is going to be 8 to the negative x. So again, it's just going to be 1 over 8 to the x power. Just make it positive and stick it over 1. 1 over 8 to the x. So now we're using letters. Doesn't change anything. We're still doing the same process. We're taking this and just making it a positive. Okay? And then this one we already did. Now we're going in reverse. Okay? So what did I have to, what exponent, because we know if we see a fraction like this, that we had a negative exponent. So we're going to go in reverse. What would 1 over 9 to the 6 be? Well, this would just become negative. So it'd be 9 to the negative 6 power. This one, 1 over 25 to the second power, would just be 25 to the negative 2. Notice I'm just going in reverse. I'm making this negative and making it into next. We're just going back in reverse. This one would be 8 to the negative third. And this one would be 2 to the negative ninth. Okay, so we're just popping in reverse. And that's what you're going to do with the last couple slides. You're going in reverse. Do not let letters throw you off. I did put an example in. This one would just be 7 to the negative x. Okay? This is a little bit harder. We're going to go over it tomorrow, so do not fret. Go back to the video if you need it. Go back to the notes. Pause the video if you need to work through some things. This is on the harder side, but you guys can totally do it. So, as always, reach me by email if you need anything, and I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow.